give you a brief outlook what's going to happen today, I will first of all show you guys some priming videos. What these priming videos is, it allows you to get a glimpse of the inner world, the panoramic world, that's the world around you, and the world that exists outside of the panoramic. And I'm doing that because in order for me to access those parts of your thinking process to be able to safely navigate you through the courtrooms, you're going to have to kickstart that. The other element of it is the corruption that's found in your language. Believe it or not, me and you are speaking a language known as Babel. Okay? And the only reason why you're able to understand it in a fairly cognizant way is because your subconscious is going in and missing and placing all the missing words so it can reconstruct everything that I'm saying and give it to you an accuracy of around about 95%. I am actually speaking to you as I am speaking to you in a language known as Babel. And it is called Babel. Okay? The processes that allows that to happen, the mental processes that allows that to happen is part of the subconscious mind. And that's what I'll be speaking to you to. My personal covenant with you guys is that 5 o'clock when you leave, not one of you here will ever see the world again as it is. That I promise you. If you do not feel that has happened, take your donation and we call it quits. And that's my covenant with you. What your covenant with me is all depends upon you, and I'll leave it to you. But that is what I say I'm going to do. By the time it finishes today, every single one of you will have enough information to be able to pull down any judge on this planet. It doesn't matter if it's a low-ranking judge or a high-ranking judge. You will be able to keep him at check at your worst-case scenario and dismiss him in the best-case scenario, or as a desired scenario, hold him to become a duty-bound, honor-bound fiduciary. Okay? So, with the videos, I'm going to show you the inner workings of the cell. Inner workings of the cell. Something that we know people saw into when they looked down the barrel of a Royal Wright microscope. They were able to pierce the cell membrane and move into intercellular material where they got a glimpse of the world inside of a cell, as complex as anything else. Why do I need to do that? Because I need to reach into those things which you already know exist. Okay? And then I'm going to take you out into the terrestrial world, or by the video, and show you the complexity of your world that you tread upon, and then take you out into interstellar material. And then I'll bring it to a stop, and I'll introduce you to the subject matter today, which is the law. How law works, why it doesn't work, why some people can access it and some people can't. I will teach you how to move in the corridors of kings and queens. I will teach you how to use the same conduits, and they're called conduits, that royalties use, the most vile and disgusting people on this planet use, as well as some of the subspecies that exist on your planet. And I'll introduce you to the world of the species of man and women. You may think of it as psychological time, but like most things, like looking down a barrel of a microscope that only shows you dead material, you have yet to encounter the complexity of the man and women, as known as the species of men and women that exist in your world. Okay? That's what I'll be doing. So I'm going to go straight into the video. What you guys saw there may be perhaps 1/1000th of what actually goes on in the dynamics of what we call a cell. It's probably 1/100000th. That's just my guess. We actually know little or nothing about the workings of anything in our world. Most of us are running around in a world of assumptions and presumptions. And that's where the courts always triumphs over you. Because while you are thinking in presumption and assumptions, they give you the assumption, the presumptions, and they just remove it or cancel it out. And hence you take no jurisdiction in a courtroom whatsoever. The mechanism for that is very well known to me. And that's a process that the subconscious does. It's called stand down, and they get your subconscious to stand down. They do it out of pure ignorance. They don't know the workings of it, but they've been trained to use certain words, like sit down. Now sit down. There's no way that you can tell a man or a woman to sit down. You talk to me like that, I'll tear you to pieces. It don't matter where I am. And if I'm in a courtroom, it's almost certain I'll triumph. Because a courtroom is a level playing field. It's a level playing field. Nobody ever goes into a courtroom where the tennis player is sitting 10 foot up there and the other guy is 10 foot below subterranean. That's not a level playing field. They are lying to you from the moment that you get a summons or a letter all the way into the courts where they do what's known as the reaping. And it's called the reaping. And the reason why they reap is because they need to add value to the fiat money that you run around in. And the only way that they can add value to that is to give you some of that empty fiat money, and you convert that into what is known as sweat equity. You've now given it gold. Because the only thing that is worth anything is that which you earn by your own efforts. And they don't do anything for their efforts. That's why they pillage, rape, murder, and so on and so forth. The conversion process, for that conversion process to take place, most of you would understand as the banking system and so on and so forth. How they get it off of you is what most people do not understand. And that is what I'm here also to give you. The mechanism takes place in the courts. These courts have been in existence for thousands of years, where they give you the fiat money, and when you convert that into sweat equity, they take it away from you, either stealth or direct or indirect. Okay? They might do it by VAT, they may do it by income tax, but they will take it off you. Anything up to 90% will be taken off you. A few percentage of it you get to keep. But also, if you are of a particular demographic, demographic comes from the word diabolos, yeah, the graphs of demons. If you make enough of it, they will make sure that your children, you never inherit your wealth. Because if your children inherit your wealth, they will not be able to get the child to work. So they'll strip it from you. The mechanism to do that is very well known. You guys all know it. It's called inflation deflation. Pumping up the economy and then removing the fiat currency where the money circulation is poor. That's one of the mechanisms. The courtrooms are used as a conduit to remove what's known as commercial energy out of you and pump it into those places where they don't have commercial energy. Whether that be the Regis, which is the Queen, or the Vatican, or the IMF family. Okay? Those are the mechanisms. Now, I'm going to show you another video. This video is about the terrestrial world. This is the world that you guys walk around in, how beautiful it is. And yet very few people have access to it. 99% of the world population don't have access to their own lands, let alone the things that they grow from it. Yeah? So the reason why I'm doing that is to give you a grasp of how much is actually missing out of one's life. And yet, it's just there, sitting right there. Okay? The other reason why I'm doing that is to be able to drive home the fact that you guys are being raped. You don't see life, you don't get to hear life, you don't get to talk about life, and you never take possession of your own lives. Then make sure of that. But by 5 o'clock, that ain't going to happen. No more. something to you guys. My ambition is that it's opened you up to let you know that with all this knowledge, nobody here really gets to keep what they make. They're not in possession of their own thoughts. They're not in possession of their own bodies. You don't get to inherit your own wealth, not from your parents, from your grandparents, or anybody else. You don't ever get to speak about the here and now jurisdiction. You express opinions in the past and in the future, but your language does not facilitate anything of a here and now jurisdiction. I'm sure not a single person here has the ability to speak in the here and now jurisdiction. You won't be able to do it. The reason why is because your language is engineered in such a way that you only ever are speaking something in the future. Sorry, that's the future there. I sometimes get confused which direction it is in. You only get to speak in the future, and as we all know, every single person here is an expert in the future, even though they have no possession of it and do not know what's going to happen the next second. And of course, as I meet historians and the powers and the ones, other people that have read books and so on and so forth, they are experts on the past. They can give me a minute-by-minute account of what happened to World War II, what the temperature of the coffee of Mr. Hitler was, and so on and so forth. And they cannot tell me a single thing, not a single thing, what is happening in the here and now jurisdiction, in the first-hand knowledge, first-person knowledge. Cannot do it. 25 years ago, when you got married, your wife was your wife, and you was her husband. That's a farming term. Your wife was given to you as your property, and you are the animal husbandry of that property. That's a farming term. Women, of course, objected when they got to understand that as the women's rights movement took off. But essentially, that's what it means. It means that you're a husband and you're practicing animal husbandry. That's what that is. Let's take those terms and put it in present terms. Your language is now being changed for you, where you are not really husband and wife. What you are is partners, which is a corporation language. It's the language of corporations, because partners exist in businesses. So your wife now becomes your partner, and you become her partner. You think you are speaking language in a language that you think is English, but almost every 25 years your language is changed for you, almost as if to say you might as well be speaking Chinese or any other language apart from the language that matters. The correct word for your husband or your wife is your mate. That's the language of nature, your mate. And the reason why, and they have all these things in legislation, statutes and so on and so forth, the reason why you cannot inherit your health, that's what my speciality is. The reason why you cannot inherit your health is because you're a human, and human beings are monsters. That's their definition. You'll find that in the dictionary, Bullenheim's dictionary. You are a monster, and a monster may not inherit its wealth. It shall not inherit anything. Not the blood, and not your children, your offspring. You have no offspring. Okay? In corporate jurisdiction, your children are the property of a corporation. That's what child means. Yeah? That's why if you take the child out of school without the corporation's permission, they fine you. Just as a factory worker would be fined for breaking, shall we say, factory laws. Essentially, the land that you're living on at the moment is the law, or known as the policies, of, let's say, Ford Works. Yeah, that's what that is. You have no access to law. You don't have access to anything except mitigation of policies. So when you go before a court, it's usually, the court is a corporate court. In a magistrate or any other court, it's usually a corporate court. And they treat you like an employee. Yeah. which is whatever the policy of that day is of that factory floor, is what you're given. And it is about money. It's about exchange of your sweat equity to remove it, so you are always kept in perpetual work. Okay? At this stage I'll take a couple of questions because I've made some very profound statements. As the day rolls on, I will qualify each and one of those statements. Any questions? Random questions is perfectly fine. So, beg pardon? It's a property of a corporation. Yeah. A child, what does a child mean? It means it's a property of a corporation. There have been many cases where a corporation, whether that would be a company, will take over a child. Yeah. A very famous case was twins. The advertising agency used those twins and then just claimed that twins as their own. And the parents couldn't get it back. They could not get it back. And after 25 years they managed to get the twins back. But under terms and conditions. How does this happen? How does this happen? It's because you guys have no law, you have no codes, and you don't have access to those avenues and venues. Okay? When I started off the studying of the law and so on and so forth, I decided to hold seminars for Jim Humble to bring his technology into Britain. And I knew the moment I did that, the newspapers, the pharmaceutical industry, which are exceptionally vile, they have a history, and their history, this is the pharmaceutical industry, their history is in the Dark Ages, when they burnt all the witch doctors and the witches and so on and so forth. They weren't witches, they weren't doctors, they were healers, and they took over their industry. Something that they do to this day is just that you don't know it. Because in those days it was acceptable crime to say these people were witches and possessed of demons and so on and so forth, because they always was healthy in times of hardship and so on and so forth, because they knew how to look after themselves. So the nation was primed to believe that they were witches and so on and so forth. Yeah, and very easy to burn. It is incredibly easy to convert anybody into believing anything. That is why the stratification of beliefs in your world is so absurd that human beings, which means monster, will go to any lengths to practice their beliefs and any length to protect those beliefs. You just name one and you'll find a particular point in history not so far away where that's what they practiced. It doesn't matter what it is, however absurd it is, it's happened already. That's the length people will go to protect their beliefs. Okay? There is a reason why for that. The people that run your secret societies, the head of the Freemasons, what's known as Master Masons, and there are many others as well. Jack Otto wrote about a particular group of them. Look it up, Jack Otto, in his book, World War III. Okay? What they do is these are the people that engineer your language. And that language is so very, very important. The reason why it's so important is because this is what enables your mental processes to take place. Okay? I'm going to put a full stop to that, and I'm going to come into an analogy. This is a hardware, and I'm going to liken this hardware to the hardware in your brain system, the CPU of your brain system. Okay? Like for like. What creates this laptop? What gives it animation, okay, is the operating system. to bring that hardware, that static hardware, life, give it life as it were, it needs an operating system. That operating system in this particular laptop is called Ubuntu. And I can't pronounce it properly. One of you can probably help me pronounce it.
Ubuntu.
Thank you very much. I always call it Ubuntu. I don't know why, but it just rolled. That's what I call it. That's what this operating system is. It takes up a very small percentage of the hardware in there. Very small percentage as opposed to the rest. And it works seamlessly. It requires no antivirus, no malware, no nothing. It's hack-proof, and nothing can get in.